Okay. The next item is the report from OSEA. Jeannie.
Yeah, thanks, Kendall. As you know, we are making an effort to hear from a variety of leadership voices around the district. And tonight we have Sarah Reams, our OSEA president. She's here again to share an update with the board since the last report.
I'm back.
Good evening, Sarah.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and district leadership. As you know, my name is Sarah Reams. I am a Medford School District graduate, a parent of a graduate, a parent of a senior and a freshman at South. I'm a media technician at Jackson Elementary and the president of OSEA Chapter 15, representing the classified employees of Medford School District. Before I speak about safety tonight, I want to acknowledge progress. This year, we've seen meaningful steps toward collaboration. The staff recognition program developed in partnership between OSEA, MEA, and the district demonstrates what is possible when employees' voices are included early. Being included in the superintendent search process and in financial stability discussions were important steps towards transparency and shared responsibility. We appreciate those steps forward. And because we are being included more in conversations, I want to speak clearly tonight about what is happening inside of some of our classrooms and how it connects directly to staff retention, student safety, enrollment, and budget stability. Let me walk you through what a day can look like for one of our special education assistants. It's 7 a.m. She clocks in and checks staffing. Are we short today? Is there a substitute? Will she have to improvise and hope for the best? This morning, the team is fully staffed, a small win. At 7:25, buses arrive, profanity, bullying, yelling, crying, everyday norms. She notices that a couple of students are already really dysregulated, a clear indicator of how the next 7 hours will probably go. Breakfast is the first hurdle. A student refuses to get his own meal, making demeaning comments and demands staff do it for him. The team calmly holds the boundary. Routine matters, dignity matters, teaching appropriate behavior matters. By 8:10 a.m., the classroom is unraveling. One student begins roaming and shouting that everything is stupid. He refuses work, disrupts others, and tries to pull them into the chaos. She calmly redirects. He pretends to comply, then bolts to the front of the room, slams the board, screams, and starts throwing markers. Within minutes, objects are flying. Chairs, water bottles, classroom materials. She begins evacuating students for safety and leads them to walk the track. But one student doesn't want to walk. Instead, she starts to shout threats and uses graphic language. When the student doesn't get the response they want, the behavior intensifies. Staff hair is pulled. They are hit and scratched. Rocks are thrown, not randomly, but at classroom windows where elementary students are sitting in class, frightened from disruption. A kindergartner in the wrong place at the wrong time is slapped in the chaos. Back inside, another student overturns desks and pulls fixtures apart while classmates and staff continue to wait outside for an all clear. Eventually, families are called, there are conversations, one student is taken home for a break and later returns. At one point, she sees a student raise a toy toward another child's head. She steps forward to intervene and hesitates. This student has already been hit twice today. Another could escalate the situation further, but the moment, while unsafe, may not meet the threshold of immediate and significant harm. If she uses a hold incorrectly, even with good intent for safety, she could be placed on administrative leave, a DHS report could be filed, an investigation could follow, and despite years of dedication and a clean record, an improper hold is still an improper hold. So she makes a split-second decision. Instead of grabbing the student's wrist to prevent entry, she puts her own body between them, taking the hit herself, because a bruise is easier to survive than an investigation that could end her career. The rest of the day is a blur. She knows she took a break. She must have eaten lunch. She remembers sitting for a few minutes, radio still on, listening in case she's needed. She makes a quick call to confirm appointments for her own children. Now back to work she goes, opening the classroom door to another meltdown, another reset. Over the radio, she hears staff from the classroom next door call for help from admin. A student has eloped and is now climbing a 6-foot fence. Finally, a few sweet moments, singing, engagement, connection, and then dismissal. Loading buses, resetting the room, preparing to do it all again tomorrow. Not because it's easy, and not because she feels supported, but because she cares deeply about every child in that room, even on the hardest days. This is not an extreme scenario, and this is not just in special education classrooms. It's becoming a norm in elementary and secondary schools. And when employees are forced to make split-second decisions while balancing student safety and fear of professional consequences, that's not a stable system. This is where the conversation must shift. We often hear that rising behavior is a national trend. We hear that enrollment is declining. We hear that budgets are shrinking, and then the question becomes, which schools do we close? Which assistant principal positions do we cut? Which essential school site-based jobs are eliminated through attrition? Families do not leave districts because of spreadsheets. They leave because of experiences. They leave when their child comes home scared, when classrooms clears become normal, and when learning feels secondary to chaos. If enrollment funds our district, then restoring safety and predictability inside classrooms must be a budget strategy. This is not about punishment. It's about accountability, clarity, and about sustainability. If we want safe, predictable learning environments, we cannot rely on staff absorbing physical and emotional impact without stronger structures around them. And this requires board-level action. These are not classroom-level decisions, they are governance decisions. You set policy, you approve budgets, you establish district-wide expectations, and you hold leadership accountable for implementation. If safety training is inconsistent, that is a systems issue. If behavior responses vary building to building, that is a systems issue. And if staffing ratios do not reflect a classroom intensity, that's a systems issue. If employees absorb repeated physical aggression without adequate support, that is a system issue, and systems are governed at your table. We need consistent ongoing safety and de-escalation training, not just initial certification, but scenario-based refreshers throughout the year. We need clear district-wide behavior response systems so staff are not left guessing and feeling unheard, and families understand district expectations and consequences. We need staffing models that reflect the intensity of needs in our classrooms. 1 to 2 adults managing repeated high-level behaviors on their own is not a plan, it's a liability. And we must address compensation. If we are asking classified employees to manage increasingly complex and sometimes dangerous situations, then the cost of living adjustments must allow them to care for their own families and make the job worth returning to after days like that. Competitive COLAs are not extras, they are retention strategies. These outcomes will not occur through hope. They will occur through policy direction, budget prioritization, and measurable accountability, because retention creates stability, stable classrooms reduce disruption. Reduced disruption restores family confidence, and family confidence protects and restores enrollment. And enrollment is not just part of the equation, it is the revenue engine of this district. If families do not feel their children are safe, enrollment declines. Safety is not separate from budget planning, safety is budget planning. Before I close, I would like to congratulate Jeannie Grazioli on being selected as superintendent. We appreciate being included in the search process and hearing the vision of collaboration and relationship building. We are hopeful, and we will be watching closely to ensure those commitments translate into action. As someone whose family has served this district as classified employees since 1967, now 4 generations, I care deeply about where this district is headed. For some of us, this is not just employment, it is legacy. And if safety and stability are the foundation of enrollment, and enrollment is the foundation of our budget, then the question before us is not whether we can afford to fix this, is it whether we can afford not to. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, the next item up is
Are we
citizen.
gonna- Any questions?
They wanted.
Oh, we have questions?
Citizen comment, I think she, yeah.
Go for it.
Well, I know that this was an issue that came up early, right whenever I got on the board, and it was something that I cared about then, and then I kept running into who's responsible for what and why things are the way they are. And I had some people say, a lot of folks said, that we're limited by certain legislative challenges. And what I feel like I have not had since I've been on the board is to address something that I heard Sarah say when she talked about where the board exists in those intersections. Can we add this to things that whenever we do meet with legislators as things that we lobby for by identifying the particular bills that resulted in creating a climate where we have less power as the local education authority to address these challenges when they come our way. I know that we have a work session coming up, so I wanted to make a a early agenda item request. And it's that it would be really great if we could get an education on what are the things that are within our control, what are the things that are outside of our control, identify the legislative measures or bills that kind of shackled us, and then that way we can leave armed with things that we can identify when we do have conversations with legislators to go on and let them know that it's something they should consider for the long session that's coming up.
Sarah, are you available to come back up? I first want to say, thank you for coming and sharing us the hard truth of your experiences and perspective. I'm sure it's not fun to share and it's not fun to hear, but it's important for us to do that. Do you feel like, I feel like, pretty much everything you said in terms of goals and where we want to be are things that we would share. Do you feel that we have the same vision and goals that we're moving towards? Or do you feel like we're not
I think
aligned?
that we have heard visions a lot. And I think that it would be nice to see action with vision.
Okay. Some of our strategic plan this year included behavioral stuff that we're tracking and training staff on how to report stuff so we're getting accurate data. And from what we've been hearing, it sounds like data shows that incidents are going down. We did a survey of staff earlier in the year to see how they're feeling. Obviously, some areas are good and some areas I identified improvements. So do you think those steps are meaningful for achieving progress, or are they not effective? Or
I feel like there's a lot of variables, because if you talk to classified, the incidences are not going down. And to the point of where we feel we're not getting anywhere. So OSHA is the way we're going to get something to happen. Making OSHA reports seem to be more effective than talking about it. And for classified, I'm also, the forms to fill out are 3 or 4 pages long, and it's, when can we find the time and when can we get it filled out? So I'm working on getting classified to really do their part. We can't get anywhere without data, and we can't just go to legislature and sit with our stories, like a story of a day in the life of a classified anymore. We need data. So I'm trying to get on our end them to do those forms, and I know that I've been working with HR trying to find a way to make it easier, make it like electronic and digital instead of handwriting it all out, and also getting support from admin at site levels to, hey, can you cover for them so they can make these reports? And so just trying to find, we're all stretched thin, that horrible flu went through everybody. So I think that I haven't got to see any of the data that you guys have on instances, but I feel like it's incorrect.
Jeannie, is that something we could work with them on to?
Yeah, what we're collecting this year was specific harm to staff. So all the other, and that has been something that we're trying to get accurate data and a way to report it so that it isn't cumbersome. And then the student-to-student incidences is what we're talking about as far as incidents going down.
Okay.
So the student, we don't have.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, we don't have as much accurate data that we'd like to have, and then we don't have anything. So this is kind of a baseline year for us to collect that data, and hopefully we'll be able to see some trends going in the right direction in the future. But part of it does start with identifying the problem, where's the problem, and getting that accurate data.
Well, and a lot of it too is we needed, I think, to have another form, because the SAFE form that you action report, it talks a little about physical aggression, but there is a huge amount of emotional and harassing and sexually harassing, harassment going out there that's not physical. It's words, it's, some horrible things that no person should ever hear is being said to our classified staff. And so I think that, having another way of reporting that and seeing that as equally just as bad as the physical aggression, that could be pretty traumatic and have to go home. We know they're kids, but still, you don't want to hear that stuff. It's really bad stuff. So I think that maybe finding a way to report that as well. And then there's still, for some reason, fear of well, I don't want to get my boss mad at me because now they have all this extra paperwork. And so we're trying to combat that and let them know that this is just, if we don't say it, if you don't make a report, then it's seen as nothing happened. So how can we do anything with that?
Sunny?
First of all, I just want to say how much empathy and appreciation I have, and I really appreciate you coming here and talking about it. There's nothing that you said that doesn't translate it into the early learning classrooms that I run. So it's all very familiar and very real. And I don't know how a lot of people are able to keep doing that job sometimes. So I think we as a community need to be holding a lot more appreciation for those that are doing that incredibly hard work. And so I appreciate you being here talking about it, because this needs to be known.
Right. And we love the appreciation. I think that you guys, the district has always done a good job of showing appreciation, but I think at this point, a lot of classified would say the appreciation would be, let's make some changes so it doesn't keep happening.
Absolutely.
Sandra or Lilia, do you guys have anything? No?
No.
Okay.
If it works for staff and admin, could I experience a little bit of the day in the life of a classified staff to see what she's sharing?
That is something we have wanted as classified so much to like, we would love for board members to really like volunteer in one of the SPED classes, one of the normal classes. I mean, it's not just SPED. I had a third grader push a teacher down the stairs a couple years ago. So, you know, it's not just, it's gen ed, but that would be amazing for you to spend a day, you know, not an hour, but a day, and you'll really see the struggle. And the thing that we keep bringing up is, yes, we're getting injured, but when we're setting up our future for failure when we don't address it. When it just keeps kind of getting, let's get through the day. They're gonna lead us someday. And I don't wanna have to buy a house up in the hills where there's no road access and I have things, you know, drone parachuted into my house just because I'm fearful for the future that we're setting up for ourselves. And so we care so much about these students, and we're wondering how we're setting them up for success when we're just getting through the day. How can we make it so that they can survive as adults and how they can feel successful as an adult? And that's one of our biggest focuses is, yes, we don't want injuries, but we're watching them and we feel like we're failing them by just continuing to just push them through, get them through the day, and not really setting up for them to feel like they've achieved enough to be an adult that contributes to our society.
Angela, did you have something?
Are we going in order?
Full circle, then we can go back to seconds, but you haven't had a chance.
Did you get a chance to
Yeah,
go
he
first?
started.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, I'll go after.
Okay, so first I just want to thank you so much for your eloquence and your passion and your advocacy for the folks that you represent. I agree with so much of what you said, but the one thing that I think is maybe the most impactful that you said is it's not a question of whether or not we can afford to address this, it's whether we can afford not to address it, and I think that's very true. I would love to talk just for a minute about, one of the things that I jotted down that I would love to hear more about is, you talked about consistency in response. Is that building to building, or gen ed versus SPED, or grade level, or what?
I think it needs to be district-wide. I think that students, they don't always stay at one school, and I think that it would be just a blanket, like, expectations and consequences where our families are held accountable and they understand the consequences, because you go to different schools and different sites and every student is different, so they have a cookie cutter solution for it. Some kids, you know, they get sent home out of school suspension, but then someone that did something way worse doesn't. And I think that it just needs to be, you know, consistent across the board and actually happen, because I know that there are things, you guys have policies in place that include suspension, expulsion, and all that, but I think that there is, from our side of things, we see that there's a fear of losing enrollment. So let's not make parents mad. Let's not upset them. Let's, you know, keep them happy. I mean, one of the students, the student I talked about that was throwing rocks and slapping a kindergartner as they walked by, you know, that student went home for like an hour and came back that same day, and then it destroyed the classroom again. And so it's like, at what point do we make the parents take accountability for their students. It's so sad to feel like we are now babysitters rather than educators. And so I think getting parents involved and more accountable also will help give them more buy-in on the education that we're trying to provide them. And so I feel like that is something that really needs to be brought back and really focused on it, and like a no-nonsense policy of, you know, if we just give a little bit, they're gonna take a lot. So we gotta be consistent.
So I think I'm hearing both strengthening policies, but then also consistently following those policies
Yes.
across every school site.
Absolutely.
Okay,
The
thank you.
other thing I'm hearing is adding in a layer of parental accountability.
Yes, that is so huge. That is something, I mean, we can't even get them when their kid is acting out. We'll call them, they'll dismiss the call. Or they'll be like, okay, I'll come in, and they'll show up an hour and a half later. And I understand that some people have jobs, they can't just drop everything and run, but technically that is neglect. They would be seen by DHS as neglecting to pick up their child. And so if we hold them accountable and say, hey, we are mandatory reporters, you need to come in and get your child, your child needs to be picked up, he's being violent, we need you to come get your child. Holding them more accountable for that and taking that accountability will change a lot of stuff. I think that's a huge piece that's getting lost, is parents can get away with it. And you can ask admin, classified teachers all the same question about that, and they'll say the same thing. Parents will not take accountability for their children. And that's where we are struggling.
So I'm going to echo what everyone else has said. Thank you so much for coming in. But what I personally appreciate the most is solutions that you've provided and giving us some kind of an idea of what we can do to try to help fix it.
I remembered.
I appreciate that very, very much. And I know Michael had something else to say.
Yeah, and one more thing to add. Eric, if you don't mind going on Fridays, I'd like to be Robin, your Batman, and go with you.
It'd be nice to mix it up too and have other
Yeah,
people.
and sure, I mean, the more the merrier, in my
Well,
opinion.
can't have more than 3.
And so, you know, I remember doing this, you know, a while back, and it's been a while. So if you don't mind, I'd like to go with you. And secondly, something I heard you say, that I think might be an opportunity to do something. I don't know, but I think that one thing I heard, it had to do with culture. You said that there are some people who are afraid to take things to their bosses because they're afraid they're overwhelming them with paperwork. And I'm wondering, Jeannie, if that's an opportunity for building leadership to bring to their attention. Not saying that, you know, that I'm not making any accusations here that that is what they're doing, that they're creating a culture of fear, but the administrators might not be aware that that culture exists. And it might be helpful as we begin the process of making it more welcoming for people to talk about the things that they experience. That might be something that,
You can definitely dig
you could dig in on, yeah.
If I could just make one tiny last
Angela?
comment. I want to say to you directly and to any other educator, classified staff, teacher, anyone out there, I love coming to your classrooms and I will always accept an invitation, but please know that I will also believe you. If you tell me it's a problem, I'm going to take your word at it and do what I can to advocate for you.
We appreciate that, because we wouldn't be saying it for no reason.
I know
Our
you love the
true
back and
focus.
forth from the table to your chair, but you could come do that, you know,
Right.
anytime.
And really, like I said, you know, you guys can hear the COLA increases and stuff like that. That is for us, but the number one focus is helping these kids because they are our future. So, thank you.
Anybody else? I have a couple little things. First, when people are concerned that they're creating too much paperwork, the board is specifically asking for this information.
Right.
So like, we would like to know.
Right.
We want good data so we can help you. And then the second question I have is, I know you invited us for a day. How practically would that work for you? And how would we help not be in your way, not get ourselves sued?
They'll tell you when you show up. Choose an elementary school level, choose a middle school level, and choose a high school level, and they will take you under their wing just like they do subs every day that they've never seen before. We don't see the same subs every day most of the time. And we do just fine at like, here you go, we just kind of throw you in, this is what we're doing, and you'll get the full experience.
Just making sure we're not going to be a bigger burden
No,
So-
no.
And we can-
That would be like saying our substitutes are bigger burdens because they literally, we don't see the same ones and they don't know because every site is different. So they have to ask, what do I do here? And so we're used to it.
I certainly hope they're better trained than we are.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe not.
So we will negotiate a schedule with Jody and
Yeah.
try and get that set up.
Yeah.
Jeannie, I have a question about process. Is there a way for us, because I heard you say volunteer, and that even sounds a little bit, I'm really interested in that, because that sounds a little bit different than just doing
Different role than observing.
That's a different role than observing. Is that an opportunity that exists for us?
Yeah, we've had board members volunteer in schools before and be readers and different things like that. So, yeah, we've
If-
had it.
I urge you
Yeah.
guys to volunteer over observing as board members because
Yeah.
it's a different feel for you
Yeah.
guys. They're going to give you a different experience. If you're standing there, you're not going to get the experience. If you volunteer, you will. And because, everybody's like, oh, a board member, they're watching us. And so if you're volunteering and helping, then you're going to get the true experience of what it's like. So,
Yeah, I'm really interested in that, if those opportunities exist.
absolutely. They would love to have you.
Anybody else? We good to let you go? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Okay, now, next up is citizen comments. Jody, do we have anybody sign?